The General Insurance Association of Barbados worried about dangerous driving habits at Christmas time. Homeowners warned to take steps to prevent fires this Yuletide season. The final constitutional reform consultations to begin next month, and Barbadians are being urged to participate. And in sports, road tennis to debut in Canada's biggest festival of sports.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. A campaign has been launched to crack down on bad driving amid concerns about an increase in motor vehicle accidents at this time of year. Called Target Zero Lives Lost this Christmas, President of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, Randy Graham, says it not only has overarching implications for individuals, but also for establishment owners and show promoters. Trevor Thorpe has that story.
There have been several complaints about a number of new bad habits being exhibited by drivers on the island's roads.
We have this new thing now where when you get to a traffic light or you get to traffic, that seems to be an invitation to drivers to take their phone out and check messages. And then, of course, you don't realize the car in front of you has moved off. The person behind you starts to blow their horn, and then you react and you cause a accident when you accelerate. So really, we just want people to stop messaging when they're driving, pull to the side of the road, wait until you get to a stop where you can check the messages, but you simply cannot drive safely and check your messages at the same time.
President of the Insurance Association of Barbados, Randy Graham, says the large number of vehicles on the roads at this time requires users to leave home half an hour or more in order to reach their destinations in time. He says other parties also have a role to play in reducing accidents.
Even the persons that have establishments that are entertaining, please be vigilant for those drivers that are that might be under the influence. If you see them struggling to their car, or if you see them struggling to find their car keys, please don't let them get behind the wheel. Mr.
Graham also has a message for motorists, warning them to remember their other road users.
Keep some of the taxi drivers on your own speed dial. Call them, get your patrons home safely, and they can return, for their vehicle the next day. It's very important not to drive drunk. So we don't want you using your cell phones. We want you to drive slowly and pay attention to the road rules. And please don't drive drunk this season. If we can do those things, we really challenge Barbados to have zero lives lost. Because as I said, we don't want any family to have their Christmas ruined because of an unavoidable accident or because of an unavoidable loss of life because of a car accident. So please be safe on the road, but by all means, fully enjoy your Christmas season.
The insurance official says in order to have zero lives lost, road users must be considerate and vigilant. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The Barbados Fire Service is tonight urging homeowners to be vigilant and take precautions this Yuletide season. Fire officials say this appeal is necessary as one of the busiest periods of the year gets into full swing. Anesta Henry has that story.
Melissa and Jason Martin were on their way to the nursery with their baby when they saw smoke billowing from a house at Boyce Road, Freehill, Blackrock, St. Michael. They immediately contacted the Barbados Fire Service and ran to the two-bedroom wooden structure to see if anyone was at home.
The lady from next door with the greenhouse, she was coming out with a hose. I went and I took the hose from her, trying to wet the house to stop the fire. The smoke got a little bit overbearing, so I ran around to the back of the yard. And I started to wet it from the back of the yard as well.
As loud explosions pierced the air and the fire spiraled out of control, lone occupant Calvin Searles appeared.
We didn't even know the gentleman, the owner, was inside in the yard. He wasn't aware that the house was on fire. So as I was shouting, saying that the house was on fire, he then proceeded to run through the side of the house, and he was in shock. He didn't know that basically the house was going. So he was grateful, and I myself was grateful that it's just a house and not, a house and a life.
The displaced 76-year-old pensioner says the house was uninsured.
And I lose everything. The only thing that I ain't have anything but my clothes and what you see me have on here. And if anybody could do anything for me, help, I appreciate it.
Where were you this morning when the fire started?
Well, I was in the yard. So I didn't even know the house was burning. the truth is this here, when it came out, then a lady said me, because it came from the back. And the front side of the body here, sparks, boom, and the glass started to fly. But I was going back in the house, she said, man, don't go back inside there.
Meanwhile, station officer with the Barbados Fire Service, Roger Bourne, says quick response from the officers at the Bridgetown and Port fire stations prevented a neighboring building from destruction. He is warning Barbadians to take extra care this Christmas.
Everybody's busy, everybody's working, everybody's trying to get things done. Pay some more attention. Make sure when you leave home on mornings that you have your various unnecessary appliances plugged out. So when I say unnecessary, I mean your fridge is a necessary equipment that can remain in. All the rest can be plugged out. Even if you have to reprogram your video and your DVRs and whatever afterwards, so be it.
Member of Parliament for the area, Neil Rowe, was at the scene contacting relevant government agencies to get Mr. Searles immediate assistance. This is the second property in less than a week to be destroyed by fire. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
There's a suggestion that Barbados needs a Human Rights Commission to address breaches of individual rights. The advice came from Chairman of the Constitutional Reform Commission, retired Justice the Most Honorable Christopher Blackman. However, he says that there is need for the correct support staff to form a secretariat when people seek redress. And he urges officials to activate the mechanism of the Public Service Appeals Board to do its job.
I am hopeful that when government determines it's going to put it in place, that it put it in place properly and appropriately, with the adequate staff, adequate location. I was a chairman of a body that was, to use a nice word, peripatetic. And afterward, I found it was like a vagrant institution because it had no place to call its home. Government creates a number of bodies, but they need to put mechanics in place that it has, that the places have a location and a structure and support staff.
Mr. Blackman was a guest on last evening's People's Business. President of the Barbados Council for the Disabled and Constitution Reform Commission member, the Most Honorable Carrie Ann Eiffel, was there, and she says it is imperative that the public is aware of their rights.
One of the things we really do need is an understanding and appreciation of what the human rights are. The Constitution, as we have recommended, has expanded on those rights. We expanded, you have the right to education, to health care, to all of those things. And we need to get people to recognize what that means, what their responsibility is. It's not just enough to say, I have the right. You also need to know what that means, what your responsibility is as a citizen, how you can access these things.
Meanwhile, Mr. Blackman is urging Barbadians to become active participants in the constitutional reform process. He explains that after extensive public consultations both on island and abroad, the final engagement process will begin next month with a town hall event on January the 5th.
Now that the process is finished, I am going to really encourage Barbadians to get the report, read it thoroughly, discuss it with their friends and family, and consider really what they want to keep, what they want to change, and then go to their MPs and use them as the agencies to put their views forward. So when they go to Parliament, as their representative, they can argue their case.
The Queen Elizabeth Hospital will be expanding its bed capacity soon. Bed manager Monique Edwards says the tertiary healthcare facility has ordered more than 4 dozen beds as well as recliner chairs. She made the announcement during the QEH Pulse radio show on Q100.7 FM.
We're just waiting for customers to, so we can get them released from the port, but we've ordered recliners and we've ordered 50 more beds as well, so that we can increase capacity so that more patients can get to the beds instead of staying in A&E, because sometimes they do stay in A&E 1 or 2 days because they're waiting a bed, so we've ordered those as well.
Meanwhile, the hospital's communications specialist Shane Seeley says the hospital has been acquiring recliner chairs through its philanthropy efforts.
We've had some recliners too coming in through our partners in philanthropy.
Right.
They have been sending in. I have done a number of those handover ceremonies for recliners, so we've been seeing them on the pediatric wards, and I'm pretty sure some will filter down to the other wards as well.
We'll take a break here, but coming up, news about an initiative to discourage smoking. Barbados is preparing its citizens to attract global economic investment. Minister in the Ministry of Education, Sandra Husbands, says one of the ways this is being done is by improving the skill set of the island's youth through institutions like the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology. She was speaking at the SJPI's graduation ceremony. Rachel Agard reports.
The work at the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology is essential to continue to form enterprises to attract global investment into Barbados. This is the view of Minister in the Ministry of Education, Sandra Husbands. She says the SJPI is already shaping skilled and innovative graduates through competency-based training and the promotion of lifelong learning.
If we are going to attract new investment that will bring jobs that pay well, that provide Barbadians with the opportunity to live a good life, it is important that we build the skill sets of all of our citizens, because it is for those skills that those businesses will make a determination that they will establish business in Barbados. So you are important to that process.
Principal Ian Drake says with the increased use of technology, there are many untapped areas, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence. He notes technology is deeply woven into the fabric of everyday living.
There is therefore the call to not only accept existing technology, but what it could currently accomplish, but to recognize the untapped potential and use it to think big and use technology to further solve the world's issues, make life easier for the future generations.
947 graduates crossed the stage in their various divisions. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
Students of the Christchurch Foundation School are being urged to become global thinkers and shapers to contribute to the world. Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Senator Chad Blackman, has given that advice, noting that government is moving towards making Barbados a hub for global solutions. He was speaking during the Foundation School's Speech Day and Prize-giving ceremony. Again, Rachel Agard reports.
The students have been told they live in a world that's constantly evolving, and they must be equipped to be a part of it. And the Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Senator Chad Blackman, a former student, wants them, along with teachers, to build out the school's academic prowess.
Barbados must now become a hub for global solutions. And what do I mean by that? You young people, and to the teachers and to the principal, you must now see yourselves as the persons who will create solutions to global problems. There are a number of global problems, whether it be climate, health, infrastructure, you name it. And if you're studying here, you should now see what you're studying and ask yourselves, how can I take what I'm studying and create a business around the world?
Chairman of the Board of Management, Daisy King, says Foundation boasts of having some of society's greatest contributors, adding there's room for more inclusivity within the school.
We have children now with disabilities who I would like to see the school make provision for. I now have a young man here who's in a wheelchair, so I have to get a ramp built for him. We need to have those and include those persons. The government is pushing that, and this thing, and the schools have to now adapt.
Meanwhile, Principal Dr. Wendy Lewis says, for the most part, students displayed acceptable behavior at the school during the period September 2023 to August 2024, under the leadership of former principal, Mr. Stephen Jackman. However, she says there was some negative behavior both on and off the school's campus, with Mr. Jackman expressing concern about the number of weapons found on the compound.
To assist the school, I urge you parents to keep a closer watch on your children. Know their friends and know the places they visit before and after school. Check their school bags and ensure that it contains the books for classes and nothing else.
Going forward, Senator Blackman has pledged to introduce the Global Solutions Prize to the male and female student who can best articulate and solve a global solution beginning next speech day. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church is on a mission to raise more awareness about non-communicable diseases, and they are encouraging Barbadians to get on board with their Breathe Free Plan 2.0 to stop smoking beginning February 2025. Facilitator of that initiative, Sophia Price, says marijuana smokers and vapors will also be included.
We are at a stage where we have a 9-day plan, so the program is a 9-day plan. However, it is not just ending at 9 days, because we understand that it's not a sprint, but it is indeed a marathon. And so we are encouraging people not only to stop smoking, but to embrace a healthier lifestyle. We have a 1-month follow-up, a 3-month follow-up, a 6-month follow-up, and a 1-year follow-up, just to make sure that we can encourage people who were previously smokers to grab hold of a healthier lifestyle.
Well, Health Director of the East Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Priscilla Prevost, who is also a nurse, says fewer people are smoking tobacco now compared with those engaged in marijuana smoking.
While we have all the information, all the data on tobacco, the marijuana use is more recent, and so the research, the surveys are just coming out now on the harmful effects, and it might take a long time before we come to grips with the fact, as we are now coming to grips with the fact of tobacco. So as early as we can arrest this and stop this as much as possible, this is why we engage in the fight right now.
Andromeda Botanical Gardens now has a space where wheelchair users can access and enjoy the St. Joseph property independently. That area, called Rochelle's Garden, came about after numerous queries. It was opened with much fanfare, with several members of various organizations in attendance. A mural was also created in the area by students of the Irving Wilson School. Sharon Cook, owner of Plastiflora Limited, the operators of the tropical gardens, has described as unacceptable the lack of spaces for wheelchair users. It was further revealed funding was secured for some upgrades to Rochelle's Garden.
Global Resolve, that's based out of Arizona State University, are going to put a roof up this side, about 20 feet, just to give space for if it rains, and also to give workshop space. And they're also going to be building some trellises, which are going to have jasmine, a climbing jasmine over them for scent. All right, so we just keep moving and moving into a sensory experience to try and include as many people as possible.
That's right, it's time for Sports Night as we're joined by the Christmas girl, Anne-Marie Burke. Anne-Marie, good evening.
Good evening to you, Pearson. Yes, it's my time of the year. But we begin with this news that road tennis will be part and parcel of the 2025 Good Games. The annual event is Canada's biggest festival of sport and will be staged in Guelph, Ontario in the month of June next year. The games were set to launch in 2020 but were delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. During that time, the team put on smaller events, and in 2022 they hosted a Canada Day event with the Rotary Club. The Good Game showcases many traditional as well as indigenous sports, and CEO and founder Helen Stombos says road tennis fits in perfectly as they're learn to play activities where attendees can try out different sports and perhaps find a new passion.
There's nothing like our event. Everything is all within walking distance, so all the different sports that are competing plus a festival. The festival is right in the middle, and so people can kind of access as much as they want, as little as they want. And I love that the festival's free because we never wanted a barrier to entry. I think sport has gotten out of control. I think what's happened is a lot of kids can't no longer access sport, and adults. So I think the more we can do to offer options, and I love the fact that road tennis, it's low barrier to entry, it's easy to execute, you can do it anywhere. So it fits in really well, and it would fit in right in our festival area. We can definitely put a few courts there and execute some fun activations.
President of the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame, Mark Gravett, says road tennis has garnered tremendous traction in schools in that province.
We're at a point now through the execution of road tennis in the last 2 years, whereby we're approaching having almost 500,000 children in elementary school playing road tennis in Ontario. We hope to, our goal would be to reach 1 million students by the end of 2025. So these exhibitions and festivals and sports challenging events really will go a long way to promoting the Indigenous sport of road tennis from Barbados. And from a Ontario and Canadian perspective, the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame is behind it 110%, and we've been enjoying the opportunity to promote and execute accordingly.
And the Good Games are scheduled for June 27th to 29th in Guelph, Ontario. Paradise lifted the BFA Women's Development Cup when the finals were contested over the weekend at the BFA Technical Turf in Wildy. Here's a look at the game. Paradise in the black had to get past Weymouth Wales for the ladies' title, and they started that push in just the 4th minute of play. Ashani Thompson finds herself in prime position and hammers home to give her side first dibs. That lead would double 10 minutes later as Takoya Hope Dongs comes from the left and fires it in as Paradise lead 2-0 into the half. Wales will pull one back early in the second. Tiffany White goes on the breakaway, fends off 3 defenders before finding the right pocket. It's now 2-1. But Paradise would not rest easy, and they're pressing again, this time scoring downfield. And when the first attempt is saved, here comes Hope Dongs to make things right. And Hope Dongs will seal it for a hat-trick. Paradise are the BFA Women's Development Cup champions, winning 4-1 over Weymouth Wales. And the third place playoff was won by FVFC Femini, who won 2-1 on penalties over Technique. Well, Pearson, that's my first look at sports. I'll return with a lot more later.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. We'll take that break with you. The Business Report is next. Well, there is a new film in town. It's called Bombshell. That story focuses on the village of Ellerton, St. George, and the correlation between the activity in the village, rum shops, speakeasies, and churches. Screenwriter and producer Graham Clark says Bombshell is a universal character that can be found in every village. But he notes if the village is to grow, it needs investment.
I say that because I believe that there are a lot of treasures, a lot of hidden treasures within the village that need to be uncovered. So I share the view of our Prime Minister that we need a new development model for tourism, for example, that is based on an inland-based development model.
Meanwhile, Senior Business Development Officer and Film Commissioner at the National Cultural Foundation, Andre Hoyt, says Bombshell is truly a Bajan product. He says there is a need for more films centered around Barbadian heritage.
Films that tell our stories in our voice, but for global audiences, yes. But we also need films for Barbadians to consume. Quite often we don't do that. So we really want to see more of our Barbadian created content screened locally. Yes, the ultimate goal is to get it exported and potentially, because we do a lot of shorts, get them picked up to perhaps become full feature lengths. But we do have a number of talented writers and producers in this country.
The Mr. Executive Challenge has been shaping and molding and changing the lives of young men beyond the span of the pageant. Director Winston Cumberbatch says several of them have been able to establish successful businesses.
The Mr. Executive Challenge has grown from 5 to 11 schools, fostering entrepreneurship among young men. Participants gathered at Sky Mall for the market phase of the challenge, showcasing a variety of goods for sale. Founder Winston Cumberbatch notes many businesses created for the challenge are still operational.
You'll be happy to hear that through the past challenges that we've had, there's some companies that are still existing. They're still doing business, and proudly so as well. And a number of these boys who are actually here today, from the time they were involved in the workshop sessions, they spoke as if They were so glad that they had an opportunity to learn what entrepreneurship was all about. And the ideas, as you move around, you will see the type of businesses that have been developed. And these are businesses that have potential for continuity and growth.
He adds it is also helping with behavior change among some at-risk youth.
We've had teachers who would have expressed that as a result of this program, the Mr. Executive Challenge, they've had boys who were kind of like at risk in a sense, some of them who were very shy, had poor confidence, just mushroomed. In fact, not just when they got back to school, but by the time they get to this stage, the market day, and then they get to the point where they have to face off before the judges, the confidence that we get from these boys demonstrates that this program is actually changing lives. And that's really the purpose for it, to bring our young men to a point where people can see the quality that is existing within our young men in our society.
We spoke with Jaden Cox of Graydon Sealy about their candle business.
Shakir and our mentor came up with the colors and the scents. The red one is lavender and the green is orange and cinnamon mix.
Zaya Wilshire of Alexandra School explains why they chose a photo booth.
A lot of people don't stop and take time to appreciate the moment that they're in right now and the fact that they are living and enjoying life. So there's no need to have a special occasion to sit down and enjoy the moment and take a nice photo to capture that moment and the essence of you and your family.
Best of luck to the young men going forward.
Indeed, Wendy. Time now for tonight's trading report.
In Jamaica, Victon Energy Limited, with 3,997,929 units, was the volume leader, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited and Sterling Investments Limited. In Trinidad and Tobago, Republic Financial Holdings Limited was the volume leader, with 303,109 shares changing hands for a value of Trinidad and Tobago $34,404,436.94, followed by Grace Kennedy Limited. And here in Barbados, no securities traded today on the regular market.
And that's tonight's business report. We'll take a break. The weather is next. Let's head over now to the weather wall and say good evening to Carrie-Ann O'Neill. Carrie-Ann.
Good evening to you, Pearson, and good evening, everyone. Well, the ridge pattern was the dominant feature yet again today in Barbados. As a result, we had fair to partly cloudy skies, along with just a few brief showers. Now, the winds across the region, they are light to moderate. They're peaking at 20 knots, and convergence maintained a few showers across the Guianas. The maximum temperature today was 30 degrees Celsius, the minimum 25 degrees. At present, the temperature stands at 26 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity, 74%. Those winds are coming in from the east. We take a look now at some atmospheric conditions across the region, where those warm temperatures are ranging from 24 to 27 degrees Celsius. The humidity shows moisture is limited across most of the islands except for Trinidad, and the winds are generally light to moderate. We take a look now at our satellite feed, where that ridge pattern maintained fair to partly cloudy skies, along with just brief showers here in Barbados. Now, similar weather conditions also prevailed across the other islands. Those winds are peaking now at 20 knots over there in St. Lucia, and the seas, they're moderate in open water, with swells now peaking at 2 meters. Later on tonight, the ridge pattern will dominate. We are expecting partly cloudy skies, along with just a few brief showers. Further south, convergence maintained a few light showers across the Guianas. Over now in the Western Caribbean, showers prevailed across sections of the Bahamas, as well as Cuba and also Hispaniola. That's our first look at the weather. After the break, we'll have the forecast. Welcome back. In the forecast for tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 10 minutes after 6 and will set at 5:33. Now, high tide is expected at 16 minutes past 11 in the morning, and the first low at 4:46 in the early morning. The seas, moderate in open water with swells peaking at 2 meters. The winds, they're coming in from the east and they're peaking at 30 kilometers per hour. For us here in Barbados tonight, the ridge pattern will continue to dominate. We are expecting partly cloudy skies along with a few scattered light showers. And over the next 3 days, a mix of sunshine, clouds and showers can be expected.
Let's get back to sports. Anne-Marie.
Well, Pearson, can you believe we're in December, but we're talking school sports, as Green has dethroned Blue as champions of the Hinesbury Inter-House Athletics Championship. Competing at Harrison College recently, Green totaled 316 points, just 7 more than Gold House in a closely contested meet. Red were third with 257, while Blue went from first to last with 255. CBC's Damien Best reports on some of the events.
School sports in December. Yes, indeed. It's Hinesbury Primary first out of the gates. Harrison College, the venue. Festive atmosphere indeed. Under 13 girls, 400 meters. Steady as you go for this one. No rush at all. I mean pedestrian for the first 200 meters. So let's get down to the meat of the matter. Pouring it on late was Yellow House representative Amisha Seeley. But that green machine was lurking and pounced at the right time. Risa Leacock surging, and she would be richly rewarded. Takes the victory ahead of Seeley and Shanna Ford of Blue House. Enough of the distance events. Let's go sprinting. Under 9 girls, 100 meters. Slip in lane 2. Yellow took advantage. Green in for a shout, but nobody was paying attention to Aaliyah Williams of Red House in lane 8. The arms were pumping and the technique prim and proper. She was stormed to victory with Ania Catlin of Green, edging Tiara Lowe of Blue for second spot. More of the high-speed stuff under 11s. Who is going to shine the brightest? They were level at 50 meters. Down the inside in lanes 1 and 2. Looking poised. Natalia Carter versus Tia Quimby. It would be Carter of Blue House on the line to win it. Quimby of Green was second, and Tamara Wharton of Yellow third. Step down to the under 7 girls now, 50 meters. All the houses represented, and a little mix-up and a tumble. But the star of the show was from Gold House. Kiara Jean didn't even look over her shoulder. That's your champion. Michaela Greenwich of Red was second. Under 9s now, 80 meters. Red House had this one signed, sealed, and delivered from the start. Aaliyah Williams taking them to task in lane 6. Business mode. Look for her at knapsack. Renea Catlin of Green was second, and Ariana Edmond of Gold House third. Finally on this highlight reel, the under 13s, middle of your track. Green House threatening to take top honors, but Shanna Ford, repping Blue in lane 6, didn't wobble with the finish line in sight, and that made the difference. Wins it. Risa Leacock of Green was second, and Gold will hang on for third. The first installment of primary school sports in the bag. Damien Best, CBC Sports.
Now, a biography of former West Indies captain, team manager, and now ICC match referee Sir Richie Richardson has been launched by the University of the West Indies. The book is authored by UW Professor Denzel Williams, and the launch was held at the Sagicor Cahill School of Business and Management. Again, Damien Best reports.
Surrounded by fellow legends, the man himself, Sir Richie Richardson, was a special guest of the University of the West Indies as the institution launched its 10th book in the Caribbean biography series focused on the sporting icon. Originally conceptualized by the late Professor Emeritus Funso Ayagina, the Caribbean biography series celebrates and memorializes the architects of Caribbean culture. It also introduces readers to individuals well-known and lesser-known who made sterling contributions to the Caribbean region and on the world stage in their chosen field, including sports. During a video presentation, Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir Hilary Beckles, said the book captures the life and times of a great leader.
His evolving personality as a young cricketer, young citizens, into global icon and a personality of the late 20th century when he exploded into the international cricket scene. Captured here also is the philosophy of a leader, a young man thrust into leadership by virtue of his extraordinary performance on the field and now required to provide leadership on the field and off the field and within the context of Caribbean culture.
Sir Richie, who averaged 44.39 in tests with 1600s and 2750s and 33.41 in ODIs with 5 centuries and 44 half-centuries, says his love for West Indies cricket started at a young age.
When I was about maybe 8 years old, my mother sent me to the shops, and the West Indies were playing against Australia. And back then there were no television. There were maybe about 4 or 5 transistor radios in the village, and every single person in the village was glued to the transistor radio. And I can recall him talking about names like Hall, Griffith, Sobers, Kanai. And I said to myself, these guys must be really great. Why everybody's so excited about these guys? And I said to myself, I want to be like them one day. And from then I started looking at the game differently, taking the game even more seriously, start practicing harder. And one of the things I did, I realized that if I wanted to improve and improve fast, I would have to play amongst the men.
Sir Richie also revealed he had a deep love for football.
Football was also my passion. Matter of fact, football was my first love. Yeah. That same field across from my house which I spoke about, because we had 2 seasons, 6 months of football, 6 months of cricket. So I was as dedicated to football as I was to cricket, and I actually enjoyed football more. I get a lot more pleasure out of football, because football you're always involved, you're always on the field running around. Cricket, if you made a duck, that's it. You gotta wait till you get another chance. But yes, and I played for 5 Islands at a very early age, and I represented Antigua at about 15 or 16.
A copy of the book was presented to UWI KFL Principal, Professor Clive Landis, and is available to the public on Amazon and bookstores island-wide.
Well, thanks, Damien. And that's it for sports. So back over to you, Pearson.
Anne-Marie, thank you and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. More news in just a moment. That's our time tonight. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, good night. By God's will, we'll see you tomorrow.